Hey guys, this is Sukanya Rana and welcome to Streak Initiative. This week we are covering questions from environment related questions which are important for your prelims 2021. And before we move on to the question of the day, do register for the Streak Initiative. You can get questions, current affair related data, all in the form of PDF, and that is all for free. You just have to find the registration link that is given below in the description box and register to it for free. So let's quickly move on to the question of the day. And the first question is related to your vegetation. So see, tropical forest has been a topic which has been asked in your previous year question paper. So again, this becomes very important. There are some patterns like tropical, savanna, Mediterranean. All these are very important. They have been asked a couple of times. So make sure you go through them. So this question is on tropical. So the first statement here is that tropical forests have poor soils. And second is undergrowth in tropical forests is abundant. So you have to identify what is the correct statement here, and the answer of this particular question is A. Yes, tropical forest might have a lot of vegetation. They might have a lot of variety of vegetation also, but the soils in that region is very poor. The reason being that there's a lot of rainfall that happens. So the leaching effect on the soils is very huge, and that drains out a lot of nutrients from the upper soils. And due to continuous rain and heat, there's this hardening surface on the soils that happens in the tropical region, and that is why we see a lot of tropical soils are drained out of nutrients and they are pretty hardened. So yes, the statement 1 is right. The statement 2 is wrong. So in tropical forest we have very huge trees, right? So there are very tall trees. So you're aware that there's this canopy of tall trees that is created, and because there's this huge population of trees, the amount of sunlight that reaches at the bottom is very less, right? So by that logic, what happens is if there are trees that are growing in that under that initial stage of canopy, they'll not get too much of sunlight, and that is why the survival become very difficult. So that is why we have very less undergrowth in case of tropical forest, because the sunlight that reaches the bottom is very less. There are very tall trees, and because of that, most of the sunlight is captured in the upper sphere. So yes, the answer is A here. We have the first statement which is right, second is not right. Again, like I told you, there are a couple of areas like Mediterranean, savanna, tropical, deciduous, especially for India when you're looking at. These are very important vegetation. Go through them, revise them. Next question of the day is again related to your phylums, and like I told you in the last video also, that there was this question on diatoms. Then there was this question on crabs was also there. Like you had to identify which particular species was odd one out. So I remember crabs was also there in previous year question paper. So crustaceans is a set of phylum that is there associated with certain animals, and certain animals are grouped under it, right? So in this question you have to identify which of them is part of crustaceans. Now see, jellyfish is pretty common, right? So if you are aware about jellyfish, then I think you can actually rule out two options here, that is A and B, because jellyfish is not part of crustaceans, right? So crabs is actually in this particular taxon, you have large diversity of arthropods, right? And a lot of animals like which have shells are actually part in this particular group. So through that logic, I think you can understand that crabs will be there, right? So the answer is actually C. So to give you a sense of what all animals come under this particular taxon, we have crabs, we have lobsters, we have crayfish, we have your prawns, your krills, your shrimps, woodlice and barnacles. Now all these are pretty common, and it's eaten widely also in seafood. So I think you should be aware, like this is a very commonplace knowledge. So go through that. I think this is important. Now talking about jellyfish and sea anemone. Now they both actually come under a group called Cnidaria, right? So in that particular group, you have animals like box jelly, moon jelly, purple jelly, anome, corals. Even corals come under that group. Hydria, Portuguese man of war. So all these animals are there in part of the other group. So the answer for this particular question is a C, where we have crabs and krills, which are part of this particular group. So let us look at the next question of the day, which is Stockholm plus 50. Now again, a lot of questions on meeting that is there in the recent current affairs is very important. So we've had this particular meeting which was held in the recently. So again, this becomes important. Like I remember there was this question on Beijing Convention in 2016, and that was there in current affairs. It's related to women rights and domestic violence and all those areas. So that question was asked. So any of these meetings that are there in the current affairs, take note of it. So this particular question is on Stockholm 50, and the options here are that it deals with arms control, disarmament, counter-terrorism and cybersecurity, wildlife conservation and environmental conservation. So the answer for this question is D. It is a high-level meeting that is to be held by the government of Sweden, and in celebration of the 50th anniversary of UN Convention on Human Environment that was held in 1972 at the Stockholm Conference. So even before the Earth Summit, which happened in 1992, we had the Stockholm Convention that happened in 1972. So in celebration of that, and how do we get nature-based solutions to fight the climate change and bring in the resilience and circular economy in the global world throughout. These are the things that is going to be discussed in this particular meeting. And yeah, so this was this meeting actually deals with environmental conservation. You can go through. I think this is a simpler question, but again, provided you've gone through these ideas. Next question of the day is again related to an act. Now, environment related acts are also very important. We've got Environment Protection Act, we've got Water, Air Act, Biodiversity, Biological Diversity Act, we've got an NGT Act, we've got Wildlife Protection Act, we've got. So all these acts are very important. You have to go through them. You have to look at important things that are there in these particular acts. So the question today is on Biodiversity Act, biological diversity. So the first statement here is that according to the act, only the central government can notify a location as biodiversity heritage site in official gazette. Second is that the state government, in consultation with the central government, may frame rules for the management of conservation of biodiversity heritage site. So there's this concept of declaring certain area as biodiversity heritage sites, and that that area gets certain kind of protection from the state government, so that because there's recognition that that particular ecosystem in that area is very important, right? So according to that act, like the Biological Diversity Act, it's not just the central government but also the state government can declare a site as BHS. So statement 1 here is wrong, right? So the answer of this question is B. So both the state government and the central government can declare any site as BHS, and in fact the state governments, in conversation with local governments and areas of and the local areas, can frame rules for how do we conserve that particular site, and they can also create biodiversity management committees in interaction with the relevant community there, so that everybody can be involved in protection of those particular sites. Again, one thing that you should know here is what is biodiversity heritage sites. So in India, we right now by August 2020, I think we had 18 of these sites in India. Go to the Google and just look at some of the sites they are, right? So you should know, if you have a look at the table, you can Google it, and I think there's this government site only through which you can access all the sites that are declared as BHS right now. So we've had pretty common that was there in current affairs, like Amikpur Lake was there, which is situated in Telangana. Manjuli Island, that is there in Assam, that is also declared as a BHS. Then there's this Gharial conservation area. That rehabilitation center is also a part of your BHS. So go through that list. I think that is the task of the day. It is important, like any list, like you have wetland land list, Ramsar sites, BHS sites, you should know what these are. The marine sites in India, right? So all these areas is something that you should be pretty handy on, you should know them. So let's look at the final question of the day, which is on Indian Rhino Vision 2020. A couple of initiatives to protect a particular species in India have been running. Like we've got tiger reserve, elephant related, we've got rhino related, we've got related to snow leopard, that bird, I'm forgetting that name of that bird is there in Rajasthan. If you remember, just write it in the comment. I'm forgetting the name. So all these initiatives are basically to revive the population of those wildlife in that particular area. So one such initiative is your Indian Rhino Vision 2020. So the first statement here is that it is designed by a Rhino task force with a target to achieve rhino population to 3,000. And second statement is that WWF India and Bodoland Territorial Council are part of this initiative. Now, Bodoland Territorial Council is an autonomous council, again under the 6th schedule. So this is important because this is basically including the community in conservation of the key species of that areas, right? So this is important, and in fact this is an important feature of this particular vision. So the answer for this particular question is C. Both the statements are right, and this particular initiative has been running in Assam for a very long time now, and it is a joint initiative of WWF, your Bodoland Council, and the government, the Assamese government. So they all together have been aiming to revive the population, and the task force was actually set up back in 2005, and the aim is to reach 3,000 as a population. And in fact they have identified 7 locations, your wildlife sanctuary, your national parks. These 7 locations have been identified for reviving the population of rhinos. Again, you should know what these 7 locations are. Some of them are your Orang National Park, your Kaziranga National Park, Manas National Park, your what else? Your Dibru Saikhova National Park. So all these national parks have been identified as the key areas through which we're going to revive the rhino species, right? In fact, your Kaziranga is known to have the largest amount of rhinos in that particular area. So again, you should know all the 7 locations. What is this vision about? You know the 3 bodies that are associated with this particular vision. So answer here is C. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching the video, and all the best for prelims preparation.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civilsdaily.